You need truth and life. Here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, listeners? This is your boy, Brother Leon, and you are tuning into another episode of the Brother Leon Show. We are still in our series, 91 Psalms for 91 days. We are in day 37, and I just want to come with a word of encouragement for you because we are in turmoil right now as a nation. Because if you're looking at the news, people are protesting in the street. Organizations and activists are coming together because they are looking at the system of policing in black and brown communities. And they are talking about defunding the police. And so people are taking that narrative or that word defund, meaning basically do away with altogether. But I will say this is that you can't allow lawlessness to remain in communities or in nations, or in our society altogether. Because I look at it like this, is that if we are going to give way to lawlessness, even when it comes from law enforcement, then we are saying we are okay with it. And you cannot complain about the thing that you allow. And for too long, our governments, local and federal, have allowed this. We've seen it in the justice system. We see it when it comes to black and brown bodies and their interaction with law enforcement. We see the smear campaign. Anytime it's a white officer and a black body or a black victim, brown or black victim, there's always a smear campaign. And you even saw a smear campaign even when it came to George Floyd, and it was done by a black woman. So this is why I tell you that racism is a team sport, and it does not care who it uses. It doesn't care if it uses white privilege, black privilege. It doesn't care. It is about progressing its agenda, and the spirit loves. And get what I say, the spirit loves expression. And if it can give the expression that the black and brown communities are broken, and they will give you people who will say that to you, that will project that image upon you. And like I've always said, it's about the label. Because when a person is labeled as a nigger or a thug or a super predator, even when they start talking urban, even when they start talking diversity talk at times, we always know what it means. And we begin to just take the labels off and begin to see another person's humanity and have compassion and have empathy. Then we could turn this thing around, but it has to start with the church, because the church was the one that authorized it, that sanctioned it. And this is why I say that it has to start with the church, because we allowed that lawlessness. We allowed that spirit of racism to come in. And I'm going to be teaching on it on Facebook Live on Sunday, but I want to give you a little preview. So I want to take you over to the scriptures. And as I pull it up on my Bible app, I'm coming out of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 14. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. So the thing is that if we are going to look at this thing as a whole, if we are going to look at it as a whole, we have to look at it from the church perspective, because the church is a conduit. The church is a conduit just as the White House is a conduit. And if the church can authorize it, can authorize slavery, can authorize Jim Crow, can authorize segregation, can authorize Willie Lynch, then the church can authorize righteousness. It can authorize deliverance. It can authorize healing, because the Bible says, confess your faults that you might be healed. And I'm just paraphrasing out of James. So I want you to know is that as a conduit, whatever is put in it, it comes out. and the permission and the authorization and the power of racism came from the church. Why do you think the Klan, out of any symbol they could use, they used the cross? Because it came out of the church. And it gives the notion that God is with us. It gives the notion that we are doing God's service. And Jesus said that there will be those who will kill you who think that they do God service. So you got to understand that the cross represents a tree. You also have to look at the fact of when it comes to systemic, institutionalized racism in the police force. Go back. My grandfather was a police. My father was a police. I am a police. My son is going to be a police officer. And so you're looking at 4, maybe 5 generations just in one family tree. So here it is. If the tree is corrupted, what makes you think that the fruit won't be corrupted? Because if the grandfather was participating in racism and was racist, and his father before him was racist, he was a cop as well, he was a sheriff as well, he was one of those who was Klan as well as police. He was one who participated in making sure that black people receive violence. He might have been one that lynched, and that might be one of the family secrets that people are trying to hide. But this is the reason why it passes from generation to generation to generation. And it goes into the police academies, and it is passed on that way. It goes into street training, and it is passed that way. But this is what I mean when I say that sin is a reproach to any people, because we have allowed it, and it's generational. So if it's generational, how do we break the generational curse? Because racism is a curse on black people as well as white. We break it through the power of the Spirit of deliverance and teaching that comes from the church. But the church has to admit its part. And there are those who are being used, who are pastors, prophets, apostles. And I even had a dear friend of mine, God bless his soul, who gave the illustration that he had a word from the Lord saying that Simon the Cyrenian represents black people, and that we are supposed to bear the cross as he bore the cross so that we could take slavery, we could take all of it, and then gave the notion of we need to come in love and forgiveness to turn things around and get our minds right. So it goes back to the whole narrative of we need to fix ourselves, but yet the responsibility, there's no responsibility. The whole responsibility falls upon black people, but there's no responsibility or accountability when it comes to the church's role, nor is it any accountability on white people's role. Everything falls on the blacks. And that is the argument that some black people have. And I will say this, we have to begin to decolonize our Christianity and decolonize our faith. Because you could talk in tongues all day long, prophesy all day long, and still be affected by racism. Because I'm going to tell you this, your faith, your wisdom, your prophetic mantle, it does not make you exempt from the ignorance that some people have who are racist. Because I'm going to tell you this, before they can hear the words of your mouth, they see your black skin. And some of you have drunk the Kool-Aid thinking that I'm a kingdom heir. Yeah, you are a kingdom heir. But that does not make you exempt from the laws of the land. It does not make you exempt from some of the things that people project at you. Because I look at it like this. If the church had to deal with racism and segregation after the day of Pentecost, what makes you think that we don't have to deal with it now? Because they dealt with it when it came to the Grecians and the Jews and the Delhi administration. And this was after talking in tongues. This was after having all things in common. This was after Ananias and Sapphira. This was after all of that. But they set men over it to turn it around. And there are men of God who are speaking against Black Lives Matter. And the crazy part about it, they're doing the work of the church. They're going to where the hurt is. And some of these men of God, they ain't going out nowhere. They protesting against protesters and peaceful protests at that. But they're very vocal on rioting and looting, and they're not even addressing the reasons why. Why there's rioting, why there's looting. Because to be honest, there are those who are in those movements who go to those peaceful protests because they want to start it. They want to be the catalyst. They want to be the person who starts the race war. So you have white supremacists who are going to peaceful protesting, holding Black Lives Matter signs. And they are inciting violence. And then you have the other ones who just want to see the world burn, the anarchists. So you have three types of people: peaceful protesters, those who want to be the catalyst, and those who want to see the world burn. But I am here to tell you that there is a generation that is uprising, that is rising up and saying that we are not going to take it any longer, and that they are not anarchists and they are not catalysts, but these are revolutionaries. These are the ones that says no justice, no peace. Because the Bible says that we are supposed to pray for those who are in authority over us, so that we can lead a quiet and peaceable life. But it hasn't been quiet and it hasn't been peaceful, but yet we have been praying. And what the prayer that is being answered is a prayer that God will reveal. And God is revealing right now. He is revealing those who are going to lead from the future. He is revealing the hearts and the motives of a lot of people today. Because even the celebrities right now, the only reason why, and hear me when I say this, the only reason why some of these celebrities are getting out here, it is not for justice. It is not for George Floyd. It is not for Breonna Taylor. It is not for Ahmaud Arbery. They are protecting their brand. And that is why some of them are out there. So they'll figure, yeah, I'll march. I'll put up some money, but my heart really ain't with it. I'm just protecting my brand because I don't want to be canceled. They're more afraid of cancel culture than anything. They want to still remain relevant. But you need to peep out who they are, and you need to see who's silent. And that's the God knows truth. Because some of this, all it is, they're going to skim over the issues. They're going to tell you you need to forgive and forget. And we as black people, we have always been too forgiving and always too forgetful. If anything, I'm going to tell you right now, you better make sure that you vote and get your hips out here in these primaries. And definitely November. Because the only way that this thing is going to be turned around is that we have to have a voice. And there's too many of us who want to get on social media and complain, but yet don't want to vote. And then you got the other side of people, they complain, don't vote, and then want to talk about people who are out here doing the work. You need to shut the hell up. Yeah, I said it. Because at this point right now, man, we got to throw off the dead weight and the sin that does so easily beset us. Seriously. We got to begin to work in a way as a team. Because if we try to work this thing alone, we are going to die by default and individually, because racism is a team sport and it doesn't matter who it uses. Because it loves to pay people. It loves to pay people like Candace Owens. It loves to pay people to get you to go out here and talk against your own. To get out here and say that it's all on black people, but yet try to give the hoax that racism is a hoax, that white supremacy is a hoax. But yet the body count is still there. The bodies are piling up. And I'm going to tell you right now, if justice doesn't do what it's supposed to do concerning these 4 police officers in Minneapolis, you think this was worse? Yeah, let a not guilty verdict come. Let them be acquitted and see what happens. Seriously. So yeah, we need policing oversight. And we need to get to the place where there is so much transparency that we have access to the police manuals. There needs to be legislation put in place operating procedures and policies and standards that mandatory body cams are in use, and that you will be fired for purposely turning it off. Yeah, I believe in that, because we have too many police that get caught up in situations and they turn the body cam off. So yeah, there needs to be something where those body cams stay on at all times, and you will be penalized if you turn it off. Dash cams included. We need to take out chokeholds. We need to take out knees on people. Because I seen a picture of that during the civil rights movement of a white cop, his knee on a black woman's neck. I seen it. And now I'm like, now I know. If it was used back then, what makes you think it's not used now? So if it was policy then, now it's policy now. If it was okay then, it becomes policy now. So that is why I say that this thing has to start at the church level, because what happens in the church goes out into the community. The people in our churches are people of government. There are everyday citizens who go out here and vote. And if the church has a voice, and if the church starts it, then we can talk to those who are at the gate. And what I mean by at the gate is at the gate of government, at the gate of legislation. We talk to those who put the laws in place instead of sitting up in the house of God, shouting, buck dancing, and praying in tongues. It's time for us to get out. And I am not an enemy of prayer. But this issue is not an either or. It is this and that. I'm serious, because people are making you feel as though that it has to be about souls. It's about not only souls, but it's also about us being engaged in the culture in this moment right now, and getting out here and letting our presence be seen and our voices be heard, and let our faith stand strong with the people, because God has given us a mandate that we will loose the bands of wickedness, that we will let the oppressed go free, and that we will break every yoke. We are called to break every yoke. So we got to begin to break the yoke off of the people that have been oppressed by these systems, institutionalized systemic racism in the police force. Yes, in the police force. Whew. I remember one of these rappers said, yeah, serve and protect, break a brother's neck. That's what one of the rappers says. And if they could talk about it then, and if it was back in the 60s then, what makes you think it's not prevalent now? Because I saw Rodney King. And I saw the smear campaign that they did. And I saw the fact what happened afterwards, because justice didn't do what it was supposed to do. But we as the church can declare the righteousness of God, but it has to start with us admitting our part. And we can heal this thing around the communion table, and we need to bring in teachers who are activists, and there are plenty of them. Teachers like Tim Wise, teachers like Robin DiAngelo, to go into some of these white churches and begin to teach the people, and bring in some black activists, and bring in some white and black pastors. Because the conversation needs to be had. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Yes, it's going to be tears. Yes, it's going to be anger. But sometimes in the midst of pain, healing takes place. We can't afford to stay numb, because there has been numbness from the 60s, 50s, all the way up until now. You can go further back. There has been numbness when you can ignore the humanity of a person. There has been numbness when you have no compassion. There is numbness when you have no empathy. There is numbness when you can be okay with watching people get killed on TV. There is numbness when you can say they should have complied. What did they do? How come they didn't listen? There is numbness. There's numbness when you can take and use your white privilege as a woman and use your femininity to lie on a black man, knowing the history of black men in police. And luckily he recorded it. So I'm going to say right now, man, that we as a people, we have got to be healed. And that is why I say confess your faults, that you might be healed. But I do not want you in this time to give up, because I know right now you have plantation preachers, you have those with black skin, but they are not for the black community. They are not for the plight of uplifting us, but they will tell us that we are the problem, all while they're being paid, all the while they have a level of privilege. And the crazy thing about assimilation is that once assimilation is done with you, it will throw you back and tell you what you are. And the crazy thing about it is that you're going to look for redemption and forgiveness and validation from the people that you destroyed. So I'm going to tell you right now, you better wake up. Some of y'all are drinking that Kool-Aid and it's rotting out your teeth. All that sugar is making your brain affected because, look, I look at it like this. If they can use you, they can use somebody else. And if any point in time that you come against them, they will cast you out and cast you off. And you will be never heard of again. And the only thing that we will remember about you is being a mockery. Seriously. So look at Diamond and Silk. What are they doing right now? They used to have a show. Some of the main ones. Where are they now? Seriously, we need to have an issue. We need to have a video of where are they now. Seriously. So I'm going to go over here to Psalms. Let's go over to Psalms. Psalms 37. And I want to dedicate this. I want to dedicate this to my pastor. And I want to dedicate this to his family, the Hilton family. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily shalt thou be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. And he shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment or justice as the noonday. I want to stop right there, because you got to realize is that God is going to bring justice and judgment as the noonday. And even though we are in the darkness, in the obscurity of injustice and ignorance and hatred, I believe that God is using all things to work together for our good. Because now he is ripping off the veil. He is also ripping off the mantles of those who are supposed to speak the word of the Lord, who are supposed to have apostolic order, who are supposed to pastor people, but they are more concerned about their ministry brand, their monies, their tithes, than the people. Because you're seeing it. You're seeing, the demand to come into the church building, and yet very vocal, going to the Capitol steps. But when it comes to issues of injustice, very silent. Very silent. So that just lets you know right now that these men really ain't true shepherds, because the shepherd gives his life for the sheep. A hireling will leave the sheep. The hireling has left the people in the midst of a protest. The hireling has left the people when they have gotten sick with coronavirus. The hireling has left the building, just like Elvis. So I'm here to tell you right now, people, wake up and see it for what it really is. I had a dear friend of mine, man. We was going back and forth, and he had the audacity to ask me, what would my pastor think? I told him straight up, I don't know. He's not here. But I know one thing, he will be proud of his children, because they're out here in this fight. They're out here protesting. I do know that. And I will say this, if you can protest against Black Lives Matter, if you can protest against the NAACP, answer me this. Was Martin Luther King a man of God, and was he out of God's will? So on that note, I want to leave you, like I left you before, with the clip of Tamika Mallory. And I want you guys to know that this is the reason why we protest. But it has to begin at the church. And I want you guys to know that it is an attack against the family of man. Because when man is attacked, you have no tree. And if the devil gets the tree, he can corrupt the tree. Because the seed is corrupted. If the seed is corrupted, the tree is corrupted, the leaves are corrupted, the root is corrupted, the trunk is corrupted, the fruit is corrupted. And that is why you can have generations of police and generations of racism in the police. Because these were the ones. And they've gone through promotions. And they became trainers. And they became educators. And they became district attorneys, lawyers, mayors, governors. And some of these have even gone into the military. So do not be surprised. No institution is exempt. Because the thing is that it is gone everywhere. It's like a virus. Racism is like a computer virus. It's almost like coronavirus. Seriously. But it's a pandemic that we've been suffering from for years. And the crazy thing about it is that it took George Floyd as the catalyst, as a straw that broke the camel's back, to make us realize that we ain't going to take this no more. I'm serious. We are not going to take this no more. And I decree in the name of Jesus that this generation will be the generation that crushes it. And and the thing that I realize right now is that I may not be here to see it all, but I'm going to do my part. And you're going to know I was here. I'm going to leave my mark. I'm going to leave my mark like the dude from the 3000. They may have lost that daggone war, but the crazy part is that they wounded God in that movie. They wounded the so-called God in that movie. That's going to be me. I'm going to wound it. But somebody else is going to finish it off. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because it's about passing the sword to the next generation. It's about passing the knowledge on to the next generation. And it's about standing for legacy. I want my legacy to be that not only was I a good father, but I stood for something. I want my legacy to be, yes, I came out of faith, but I used my faith to help my community, to help my people, to try to transform this nation. I'm not using my faith to serve myself, but I'm using my faith to serve the people. And on that, I want you guys to be blessed. We're going to be out with Tamika Mallory.
Are burning is because this city, this state would prefer preserving that white nationalism and that white supremacist mindset over arresting, charging, and helping to convict 4 officers who killed a black man. That is the reality of what we're dealing with. This is not just a few cops doing things across the country. This is not a good cop versus bad cop situation. This is Ahmaud Arbery being shot down by white men on the streets of Georgia. Breonna Taylor being killed in her home. This is in New York City where we were until freedom. We were just in New York fighting the police officers who in the name of social distancing were damn near killing black young people on our streets. This is a coordinated activity happening across this nation. And so we are in a state of emergency. Black people are dying in a state of emergency. We cannot look at this as an isolated incident. The reason why buildings are burning are not just for our brother George Floyd. They're burning down because people here in Minnesota are saying to people in New York, to people in California, to people in Memphis, to people all across this nation, enough is enough. And we are not responsible for the mental illness that has been inflicted upon our people by the American government, institutions, and those people who are in positions of power. I don't give a damn if they burn down Target. Because Target should be on the streets with us, calling for the justice that our people deserve. Where was AutoZone at the time when Philando Castile was shot in a car, which is what they actually represent? Where were they? So if you are not coming to the people's defense, then don't challenge us when young people and other people who are frustrated and instigated by the people you pay. You are paying instigators to be among our people out there throwing rocks, breaking windows, and burning down buildings. And so young people are responding to that. They are enraged, and there's an easy way to stop it. Arrest the cops. Charge the cops. Charge all the cops. Not just some of them, not just here in Minneapolis. Charge them in every city across America where our people are being murdered. Charge them everywhere. That's the bottom line. Charge the cops. Do your job. Do what you say this country is supposed to be about, the land of the free for all. It has not been free for black people, and we are tired. Don't talk to us about looting. Y'all are the looters. America has looted black people. America looted the Native Americans when they first came here. So looting is what you do. We learned it from you. We learned violence from you. We learned violence from you. The violence was what we learned from you. So if you want us to do better, then damn it, you do better.
Walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.